Hello. I'm here again with a video in which I'm going to take you through a number of prompts that we've worked with and talk about how all of this works together toward the project that you're trying to complete for week 7. Let's start with the prompts for week 1. The very first time that you worked in Brightspace and you were asked to select from the library a text to work with for the rest of the semester. And here we see the prompt, choose a reading from one of the selected readings from the library guide where you've been. Now that you've read your piece and taken some notes, address the prompts below. What article did you select for your term-long critical analysis project? List the title and author. That's all you had to do. An author's purpose or goal is their reason for writing a work. Based on a literal reading of your selected article, what do you believe is the author's purpose? What pieces of evidence from the text led you to arrive at that decision? How did you discern the author's purpose? An author's audience is the group or groups of people who are being addressed in the reading. What audience do you believe the author is writing for in your selected article? Who are the people the author is trying to reach? What potential challenges did the author face when addressing their purpose with this audience? What might get in their way? Is there something wrong with the way they're doing it? Or is there some mistaken assumption about their audience that's going to give them trouble when they try to get their point across? And then the guidelines for submission, and I left them here for all the prompts because some people are still not doing it. So let's read it once and I'll just assume you know it's there in all the others. Save your work in a Word document and include a page with references. It must be written in MLA or APA format. Use double spacing, 12-point Times New Roman font, and 1-inch margins. It's a page with references if it's APA, but it's called Works Cited if it's MLA. And that means you really have to cite a work in the text or name the author in an introductory section of a sentence to a quote or paraphrase or summary that refers to that particular work. What are all these things they're asking you to do? These are things that would make up an excellent first paragraph for the paper that you're now trying to write. And if you work these things out well enough and figured out the goal and how you got to understand that was the goal and the target audience, you can talk about all of those things as analytic points in writing about your chosen text. So you've already begun to gather material that can be used in this final project. Let's move up to the week 2 prompt. For the week 2 prompt, it says, to prepare for this assignment, please reread your selected article and your notes from Module 1. But we just talked about how you would write something that would fit very well into the paper you're doing now. You want to look at your notes for that, your writing notes. Specifically, you must address the following rubric criteria. Discuss the context of your selected article, the author's purpose and the style and tone. And all of these things, context, how it fits into the world or the world of the target audience, why the author is doing it, what style is it? Is it formal or informal? What is the tone? Is it humorous or serious or alarmed or sarcastic or whatever? What have you learned from this early analysis? These are all parameters that, again, you can use analytically in talking about your text, and more important, in writing about it. How will a closer analysis of the author's claim in the writing structure help you to learn more about your selected reading? Well, this is a process question. It doesn't really fit into the project essay, but it's certainly helpful to have done it and to look at what you did in doing it to understand your own workings as you go through this set of modules. Now that you've discussed the author's purpose for writing the selected reading, do you think the author's writing effectively achieves their purpose? And what led you to this conclusion? How will have they achieved this purpose once you've discerned what it is? Well, at this point, You can certainly say the author does a perfect job, and I think the author is wonderful, but then maybe if you can find something seriously wrong with it, or even slightly wrong with it that you can point out, you're making that critical step and getting into the position of being able to understand how things could be better and to suggest how that would be done. In total, the reflection should be 3 fully developed paragraphs, 5 to 8 sentences each in length. Consider 1 section per question. Remember to refer to the rubric below to make sure you're fulfilling the requirements for this assignment. Well, that's just your basic requirement that tells you to check the rubric, which is important. But the main thing that's important now in looking back and trying to get something useful for your paper is look at what you wrote. Context, purpose, style, tone, claim, structure. All of these analytic points can be used and fit very well into your essay. And again, we see the guidelines for submission, but we know them and we're going to start using them. Please give me a nice title of your own while you're at it, and don't just name it after the assignment. And here we are in week 3. To complete this assignment, do an active reading of your selected reading using the reviewed analysis technique, something you were introduced to in the unit. Be sure to take notes. Next, you will make a plan for writing your critical analysis essay, which will guide you through the first steps of drafting the critical analysis essay due in Module 7, where we almost are now. As you work on the writing plan, remember to refer to the assignment guidelines and rubric below to make certain you fulfill each aspect of the assignment. And you'll see the rubric if you go to the grade center and look at my comments there and at the scores you've got. For this writing plan, you'll analyze your selected reading and state an opinion or evaluation about the author's claim. This is where you start to develop your thesis. And this becomes very important in Module 4.3, where a lot of people got confused. So pay even closer attention now as we move through this. You will then use evidence or key points from the selected reading to back up your evaluation. Specifically, you must address the following rubric criteria. What is the author's claim in the selected reading? In other words, what do you believe the author wants their audience to learn or understand better once they've finished reading? Have you identified key points that the author uses to support their claim in the selected reading? If so, include them here. And certainly if you did the earlier exercises, you did that. Describe the author's target audience. What group or groups of people is the author trying to reach with their message? And if you can narrow this down a bit, it's okay. You can say they're trying to talk to everybody, but if you're writing about texting and driving, that's not somebody my age. It's much more likely somebody your age. And we want to think about age, economic status, ethnicity, all political orientation, all sorts of things. But the more you can narrow that target audience down, the better an analysis you're doing. What choices do the authors make within their writing to connect with the target audience? That is, once they've decided who they're trying to reach, how do they go about appealing to that particular group? Explain your evaluation of the author's claim. Is his claim strong or weak? What evidence or key points of the writing best support the author's claim? If you found the claim to be weak, explain why the evidence or key points provided did not effectively support the author's claim. And if you found it to be strong, do the same thing. And again, the guidelines for submission. Let us now go to the dreaded 4.3 assignment, which has a problem that is not your fault. And I want you to understand it, and that's why I put it in red. For this assignment, you will compose a thesis statement, and here we go in red, that summarizes the article you selected to work on throughout the course. And that looks like it's the assignment. But it's not really what you're supposed to do in this section here, which is the part that you're supposed to fill in. What you're supposed to do there is summarize the author's claim and make a value judgment about it. Tell me, for instance, if it's weak or strong. But if you can divide that up into various points, is arrogant, offensive, and ridiculous, then you're doing well. But that is the crucial thing. And it is not at all explained here, though later on in the prompt it is. But if people took that to heart and thought all they had to do was summarize the article, then they went off on the wrong track. And that's why we spent so much time going back and fixing this. So you're going to have to, first of all, state the claim. The author's main claim that women should donate eggs is unclearly stated, misleading, and dangerous. All this going back to my previous video. And if I make 3 points that I can develop in a paragraph each, then my analysis is going to be very good. And the supporting key points, again, many people put the author's supporting key points here. And it's not what the prompt is asking for, though it looks like it is, to summarize the article. But you're not going to summarize the article here. What you're going to do is defend the points you have brought out in relation to the author's claim in order to show how the body of your paper is going to develop. Because it uses unclear language, because it is profit motivated and hides many important facts, and it conceals in particular the dangers of egg donation. The main claim should summarize your reaction to your selected reading. Now here they say the right thing. Up above they said summarize, but no, you're not supposed to summarize. It should summarize your reaction, which is very different and is why people were misled. And your supporting points, not the author's. Remember that a strong thesis statement should contain a main claim and 3 supporting points to back up the main claim. And that's the because part. Specifically, you must address the following rubric criteria. Identify a main claim that relates to the selected work. Not the author's main claim, but again, your claim about how well or badly the author does what they're trying to do, achieves their purpose. Identify 3 relevant points in support of your claim. Again, not the author's, but your own points. We skip up to week 4, 6, and there's not much there to worry about because this is where you are actually going to summarize the document itself, not your argument anymore. Cite works you use. You're not graded for this yet, but it's getting close to the time you will be. So you want to study that MLA and APA format. Specifically, you must address the following rubric criteria. Summarize the source in 3 or 4 sentences. And here in the exercise, they said in your own words. Specifically, you must address the following rubric criteria. Summarize the source in 3 to 4 sentences. Clearly reference the author's ideas using your own words. You're not going to quote here. You're going to summarize as succinctly and as condensed a way as possible what the author has to say, specifically their supporting points. For this project, and this is the prompt you're working with in week 5, for this project, you will build upon the outline of the essay you have developed while incorporating your instructor's feedback. Use the prompt questions below to help you develop your draft. You'll pull out quotes and paraphrase from your selected reading and write summaries that you will use to support your analysis. When you're done responding to the prompts below, you'll have the first draft of your critical analysis essay. In the following module, you'll complete a revision activity to improve this draft further. And then in the module after that, you're going to actually produce your final draft. Specifically, you must address the following rubric criteria. 1. Introduction. The introduction of your essay is where readers will learn what your essay is about. Do not give all your information away here. Instead, give readers a sample of what is to come and what you will be supporting with evidence in the essay's body. Do not forget to review your outline to make sure you briefly cover all of the key points you identified. These are the key points of your argument, not the author's key points. If you're claiming key points have changed since then, it is okay. For your new idea, seek feedback on your ideas from your instructor or the writing resources available through SNHU. That's academic support. Provide an overview of the work you have analyzed, briefly describing the main points in your reaction to the author's claim. Again, this is what they're asking you to do now, is go back to that summary of the essay from the earlier prompt and do that. But mainly, you're going to be talking about what you think of the essay. Compose a thesis that you will support with evidence throughout the essay. This statement will give direction to your essay and should be well thought out. In the body of the text is your opportunity to support your evaluation of the author's argument. Not the author's argument, but your evaluation of it. Ensure that your thoughts and evidence are clear and easy to read and understand. Be sure to write organized paragraphs that clearly state their main idea and move logically from one to the other. Your body paragraph should support your thesis by combining thoughts and ideas with evidence or key points from the selected reading. So you'll be using the quote sandwich, which we talked about a good deal, to introduce quotes or paraphrases or summaries, to present them, and then to discuss them and analyze and unpack them for the reader. There is no such thing as a right or wrong evaluation. The key is how well your analysis is supported and the quality of the evidence used. And finally, in the conclusion, think of the conclusion paragraph as a review of your analysis. Use this section to relate your evaluation. Think of the conclusion paragraph as a review of your analysis. Use this section to restate your evaluation and remind readers of your supporting evidence. Think of this paragraph as your last chance to prove your point. Briefly summarize the main points that help form your analysis. This section should consist of a brief review of your main ideas. Draw conclusions based on your evidence. Get to the point of what you are trying to prove. And use evidence that you have found to wrap up the essay in a meaningful way that relates to your audience. How do you make this accessible to the people you're trying to reach? And that's by writing clear, original, and hopefully inspired text. And that's where we stand. I think you can see the importance of going back over what you've written in previous modules and trying to work from that to develop your essay rather than trying to write it cold or simply relying on your outline. Confusion in part 4.3 is unfortunate, but by now, everyone whose work I'm seeing seems to have overcome it. So now what we want to do is work towards that coherent essay that follows the guidelines and ideally also pays attention to some of the skills corrections and edits that I've been doing in Turnitin. In any case, that's enough for now. Thank you for listening.